All right, good afternoon. Welcome to All That Jam, where music has no limits. I am here today with Dave Kennedy of Boulder, Colorado's Roots Music Project. Dave, I think I would ask how you're doing today. I think you're pretty busy at the moment, but how are things going? How's everything out your way?
We're 8 days out right now from the festival. It's starting to get to the point where we just kind of deal with stuff as it comes in, but I'm feeling really good about it,
I'm
actually.
so glad. I
Yeah.
was so happy to talk to you. You and I have known each other for a little while. We've had some really great conversations because I absolutely love what you have built and are continuing to build over in Boulder. Of course, that's local for me. I want to talk about the festival that's coming up soon, but maybe before that, for everybody, let's talk about Roots Music Project, what it is, the concept behind it, from your perspective.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So Roots Music Project is a nonprofit organization in Boulder, Colorado, and our mission is really to help out the music scene. It's pretty broad. We do that through, providing a lot of gigs for local bands and also some of the uh, national touring bands that are more rising. And we also have workshops, we have youth programs, we have a sober open mic. Um, we hosted probably 250 shows at our humble little warehouse in East Boulder last year. And this year we're doing the festival, which is pretty exciting.
That is very exciting. And you all are no strangers, even in this amount of time, like you said, to putting on events. Is there something special or specific about Colorado, maybe Boulder especially, that made you want to do this here?
I've lived in Boulder for like 20 years now, maybe a little bit longer. And over and over again, I kept hearing from people like, oh my God, the Boulder music scene was so great back in the 80s or 90s or 70s or whatever. And frankly, I was a little jealous, right? And my experience has been, and I'm a musician, a hobbyist musician, but I do a gig for a paying band, a local band in town. But my experience has been that the local clubs are disappearing. And especially in Boulder, we have high housing prices. Um, it's always like a battle with development. And so I said, we have to do something for the scene. Otherwise, it's kind of like, I use a baseball analogy. Like, you can't have a major league baseball league without having a farm league or a minor league. So what I saw was like these clubs disappearing, the local scene disappearing, the local musicians being frustrated. And so we said, we have to do something about it.
Right. And as a music fan, a non-musician, but a music fan who has different ways of supporting the scene, when I found out about Roots Music Project and the fact that you're a nonprofit, you host a lot of workshops, and it really feels in every capacity exactly what you said, that this should be kind of like a hub in different ways for local musicians, bands coming into town, like you said, that are on their way up. And I think that's super special because I agree, there's lots of venues in this area. They are not necessarily open or geared toward that type of musician. And that is something that really needs to happen to cultivate the community that so many people love, including myself. So you're doing a huge service for us. What about the nonprofit piece? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's different than a lot of venues. How does that fit into everything that you do?
I mean, the way we see it, and I'm an accountant by trade, and I mean, I've crunched the numbers. If we have a 250 capacity venue, right? It's really hard to have a for-profit model.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, it just made sense. We had to go out and find donors to keep it alive. And that's why, the for-profit model's just kind of, I think it's kind of broken for the local music scene. And we're seeing other nonprofits pop up around the country like this as well.
Okay. So maybe that's just a different way to approach sustainability in what you're doing. So I know that we've chatted with a few people who are really close to the work you do. Caton from the Jaunty's been on our show a whole bunch of times.
Awesome.
We love him. He's so great.
You too.
Yeah, and then I got to chat with a few people who were part of the festival that you all did earlier this year as well, and they expressed similar, feelings that to have a place where they can really share and grow in their craft is incredibly important and special for them. I know that you all have a huge festival, and that is not hyperbole. That is actually the truth, starting next weekend. And I would love to talk a little bit about that. So Boulder Roots Music Fest happening October 17th through 19th, but it is not that simple. You all took this idea of a festival that so many of us love, and I feel like you have really amped up what is available for attendees. So let's chat about that. There's some stats on the website, and I just want to go through these real quickly. So we're going to talk about the lineup. 15 stages.
Yes.
Over 3 days, and then over 800 artists all together, right, that are going to be a part of this.
Yes.
How in the world do you put something like this together? When did you start getting these pieces in place? I'm a logistics person, so that is something that I am fascinated.
We have a great team, and we started kind of testing this model last year. We had a thing called Roots Fest, and it was at our warehouse. We have 2 spaces, and we did 30 bands. And so we would do half an hour or 45 minutes at one side, and then the crowd would walk over to the other side of our warehouse. We'd do another 45 minutes. And what we proved to ourselves is that we could organize it, and that we were pretty good at doing volume like that. And a lot of it's through tech. I hate to say it, like, we send a lot of emails, and a lot of our artists are kind of go along with that. Like, some of the artists, I don't do email. Unfortunately, we have trouble dealing with those artists, right? So the ones that are up for it and that will fill out the online form, which everybody hates, but it works that way. And then we can screen so many bands so quickly and really curate it, but it all gets back to the staff and the donors.
Right. So, yeah, so I noticed, again, just kind of looking through information, you all have a lot of sponsors that, and I'm sure are participating in different ways. That to me speaks to the effect and the impact at a community level that businesses want to be a part of this. So I see, everything from Westward, of course, our incredible, one of our local publications that is super in tune with the music scene here as well. And then so many others, the Colorado Sound, Velvet Elk Lounge, which is another venue in town. Tell me, just from the purposes of their involvement, are some of them sponsoring stages or pieces of the festival? Will they have booths set up there? How does that work?
There are some booths, but it's our first year, and so we kept it pretty simple. Mm-hmm. And really, so it's pretty boring, actually. I mean, there's just different levels of sponsorship. And so we haven't done this stage sponsorship thing yet. We'll probably evolve to that. And you see that, like with French Quarter Fest, which is an amazing festival, right? And every stage has a sponsor. We may evolve to that model, but right now, we actually started this festival thinking that we would have about 30 bands. And so we started gathering sponsors, and then we received a huge donor referral, and that donor supersized our festival. Mm-hmm. That's how it became so big. And then we went after all these sponsors.
That's amazing. So, I was looking at the schedule, and you all have really done an incredible job of putting a lot of pieces together for what is truly 3 full days. So this is music or events, whether it's yoga or DJ set, that start as early as, I think, 9 a.m. on Friday the 17th, and then run through the day. I like this model, and I enjoyed learning about that from the earlier fest you did that you said was kind of a proving ground in some ways. It seems like it allows the fans, as a listener, to really get exposed to so much music, a lot of which may be new for me, and to get that taste so that I want to hear more and I can go find out more on my own, see where else folks are playing. Is that kind of the model that you all went with when you were thinking of how you wanted to craft these 3 days?
Yes, and the thought behind it is we're about the local music scene, and we're about the broader local community, right? And so it's not, the whole idea is not just behind the musicians, it's also behind the fans and the venues. And what we have found is that there are a lot of music fans out there that go to a lot of concerts, but they only go to the big acts. And so, I'll talk to some of my friends who are like hardcore festival people, and they're always at a festival, but then I'll ask them, well, who's your favorite band? And they don't have an answer. And so part of the idea behind that was, and the reason they don't have an answer is because they really don't pay attention to the local scene. And we think that's a huge opportunity, frankly. So that's why it's 180 bands, which is 800 musicians. And we have our headliners, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit, Yonder Mountain and North Mississippi All-Stars and Andy Frasco. And that's to attract the folks that are the hardcore music fans. But then we have, these other 14 stages that have all of this local music. And what we're hoping is that people will fall in love again with their local music scene and really adopt these local players. Because for me, I love a festival. I love Red Rocks. I love all that. But it's kind of like if you eat the same thing every day. And now I'm going to, the next level, which is getting to know the local scene, and the players there are just incredible.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different experience when you're sitting right in front of someone.
Yeah.
That's the inspiration.
I totally relate to what you're saying in a slightly different context, which is being involved in different radio formats for a long time and wanting to share international music, local bands, and trying to get people interested to try something new or maybe
Right.
just expand horizons. And, it's not always an easy thing to do. People are creatures of habit. But I think putting this together the way that you have, like you said, with some of these headliners, which I definitely want to talk about, gets people there, and then they're going to be surrounded by just so much incredible music. And like we're saying as well, there's the music piece, there's the venue connection. What are the 3 venues that are a part of this? Actually, it's more than 3, I think.
It's 15.
15.
Yeah.
15 venues.
15 venues. And so it's a lot of non-traditional venues. So the big venues are the Boulder Theater, E-Town, Oddfellows Hall. Have you ever been into Oddfellows Hall?
No, I haven't. And I was looking at this thinking, there's a lot here for even someone like me who considers myself to be, kind of connected. There's a lot of new stuff here for me, for sure.
I'm not going to name all of them, but it's everything from the Velvet Elk to Trident to Paradise Found Record Shop to Vintage Garage, Vintage Store, to Stone Cottage, to HC Real Estate. Maybe I am going to name them all. To Mountain Sun. It is some of these places like Velvet Elk, E-Town, Trident, they are still holdouts. They're still showing local music, Mountain Sun. But a lot of these spaces are activated because they really love the music scene. And we're coming in and say, we're going to do a turnkey thing for you, like Savannah Bee Honey. Like when can you see a band at Savannah Bee Honey? You will this weekend.
That's right.
Some honey mead while you do it.
Which is a cool spot. I have been there. These these places, like you said, Mountain Sun is a good example, has its own set of history, right, and connection for many years to Boulder, and people know it for a certain reason. This, I would imagine, is something that is going to provide for the venues, all of these different places, something new and different. And I'm sure that that has got to be an exciting thing, because right now, everyone, any business owner, needs support. Music venues too, right? Yeah. So I love that thinking.
Absolutely. And Boulder's going through a little bit of a change. I mean, it's always a changing town, but
Mhm.
Sundance Film Festival is coming in 2027,
Mhm.
which will be here before we know it. And so the town's kind of getting ready for that. And our big donor, Caruso Foundation, they also are involved in Sundance, and their vision is like we kind of got to get ready for this.
Yeah.
So using these non-traditional venues really ties in with the Sundance part of it as well, and also kind of the giving back and making it a little more homegrown, and a little less polished right now, which I love.
I'll say, I mean, real, to be there and see something developing, that's this part of the story that people really love to talk about. We do that with bands we've known for 30 years. Remember when, right? We kind of were there.
Absolutely.
It's a big thing for people to feel a part of something that is connected to them. And I feel like that's really what this is about as well.
And with this being the first year, the people who buy tickets, they're going to be in our database for a long time, and we will treat you right. I mean, it's special to be part of the first one.
Yes. And about the tickets piece, I just want to thank you all, because you all have done something, again, I think that's very thoughtful. I feel like there are so many details to what you all have put together that really center the fan in mind. And you have various opportunities and ways for people to buy tickets. So, of course, you've got the 3-day weekend pass that's about $120. There's a VIP super pass that's about $100 more than that. But then we've got student passes that are 3-day passes, single day tickets, and late night tickets. So it's almost like a choose your own adventure for people that may have Saturday free and that's their day to go big. They can combine that, in the way they want. For a 3-day pass, that's an incredible value for the amount of music. I mean, I had to look at it.
I agree. I'm like, whoa, are we underpricing this thing? I don't know, but I agree. We're a nonprofit, we're learning, and we hate gouging, and we are very lucky to have donor backers who believe that, trying to get the community together, not just the artists, but the fans and the venues, trying to get everybody together. We kind of have we're tiptoeing into this little South by Southwest thing where we're doing Caruso Foundation, our big backer and kind of co-producer of the festival. They want to bring in other elements of Boulder, basically life or business. And so we're also tiptoeing into kind of this, we're having some talks, not only on wellness and sobriety and that type of thing, but also on kind of creative tech and immersive tech and how that comes into music. And I think that's going to get bigger and cooler as the years go on.
So as someone who works full-time in the tech space and ed tech, I love that. I think there are so many ways to bring that together into a conversation. And that's authentic connection with people who are doing things that we may hear about here and there, but to get a chance to actually really dig in and hear people talking about what they are doing that's really innovative. It's really hard to find those opportunities on your own. It's just a tough thing to do. But I think, the interest in that is definitely there because it's all around us. And
we have CU. I mean, we have the Atlas Center at CU, which is the multimedia center. I mean, we live in a really cool place, and especially if you're a techie music fan, it's even better. Or even if you're just a visual artist, I mean, come on down, right?
Absolutely.
We are going to have some some of the Burning Man artists on the courthouse area. So check that out too. There's just so much, it's hard to describe.
I was going to say, you could spend your week, and I have time. We could spend hours talking about it. I think that one thing I would like to touch on that we talked about a minute ago is this this lineup you have for the headliners.
Sure.
When I saw the list, clearly we know we're in a jam band friendly, or maybe dominant, some would say, space, right, which is great. So you have very thoughtfully placed these acts as well across the 3 days. So I'm just going to read a few of these right here. You mentioned Andy Frasco, Carl Denson's Tiny Universe. I saw that and my jaw dropped. North Mississippi All Stars, The Rumble, who we've had on the show here and absolutely love what they do. I saw them at High Sierra this summer earlier in California. And then Yonder Mountain, they're amazing. So, working with these acts as well as everything else you have going on, I would love to just hear your thoughts on, how you reached out to them, just kind of a little behind the scenes maybe, is how are you handling these acts that are, national touring, some have been around for many, many years. What do they think of this, the concept?
Well, first of all, I have to just take a moment to say how great my life is to be able to work with these acts. I mean, come on. I'm just a nonprofit dude, right? And I'm very, very lucky that we have this booking team that not only is super passionate, but they have great connections. Mm-hmm. The behind the scenes story is that we started out, like I said, as a smaller festival, and we were scared to death of even renting the Boulder Theater. That was a big hit for us, a lot of risk. And then saying we're going to have a headliner, and our first headliner that we booked was Yonder. And it's, just trying to figure out, like, man, who do you book first? Right? And you would not believe how hard it is to book bands. You probably would, actually.
A little bit.
But it's not easy. Part of it, even if you have the money, you have to still deal with the tour schedules. So we developed a list of our wish list, and then we went out to other community leaders. We went to insiders. We went to fans. We went to people that are in the industry and said, give us your wish list. What do you want? We sorted it. We said, we can't afford these guys. We can maybe afford these folks. And then we actually looked at the audience and said, okay, it can't all be like dude bands, right? We need to appeal to young people, to older people, to, it's pretty broad. We're trying to include the whole community. So that's the long story. Then you have to reach out, which actually was easier than we thought. Like, our connections were pretty good with the agencies. But the challenge was the routing, and we had such a short period of time because, back when we were starting to work in March, we didn't think we'd have the budget to book all these other headliners. So we really had to book these other headliners kind of June to mid-August. It was crazy.
Well, that is an incredible feat, because what we hear on this show a lot of times is that the lead time for booking a tour has gotten longer and farther out than it's ever been. So we hear a lot that, depending on the artist, of course, that they may already have booked a year from now, or at least are very much in the process of doing that. And so it is, I think, magic luck on one hand, but that, like you said, having strong connections and the dedication to saying we want to have this as part of our event. And they're going to bring, of course, a whole bunch of people, but each one of those bands in their own unique way has such an incredible dynamic personality. And I think that is just a wonderful thing to add on top of all of the other artists that are going to be there.
Yes. And the other element is you have to figure out where to put them, right? So we had the Boulder Theater for one night, and then eventually we got it for a second night. And I do want to thank the folks at Z2. We're trying to include everybody. This is a big community. And so Z2 has been good to us in basically working with us to get these dates. But then we also, like I mentioned before, we have the Odd Fellows Club. You want to talk about that for a second?
I would love to talk about that. Yeah, explain
I want to talk about the headliners too, but that's such a cool thing for the Odd Fellows.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the premise there, and if someone doesn't know what that is at all, what would you tell them?
The Odd Fellow, for those folks who know Boulder, they may remember the old Army surplus store on Boulder in that old building right at 16th and Pearl. And basically it's a building that I think is 100 years old, and it's owned by this club called the Odd Fellows, which is kind of like a Kiwanis club, or it's like one of those old school fraternity type things, right? But they love music, and they're very modern, and they wanted to do other stuff. So we approached them and said, hey, can we do some music here? They said yes. But as a fan, what you're going to get, one is like, people just don't get to go into this building, but you walk up the stairs and then you feel like it's kind of the 1930s all over again. It has all these stained glass and a big hall. And right now it has all these old wooden chairs that have probably been there since the 30s that we're going to have to move out so we don't destroy them. And then we added a liquid light show just to really make it even weirder.
That's going to be amazing on those windows.
It's going to be amazing on the windows and the big ceiling overhead. I mean, it's going to be cool. And that's where the Rumble is playing on Friday.
Such a perfect space for them. This is a tough question, but whenever I think of a festival, one of my favorite components is typically sit-ins, super jams, the opportunity for bands to have time on stage with each other. And that is often where some of the most surprising and wonderful moments at a festival happen. Are you hoping something like that goes on? Do you know of anything that may be brewing a little bit there?
To see it with the headliners, for one, okay? And it's going to happen definitely with the local crew as well, especially because so many people play in so many different bands. Like one guy who, Ian Aris, he's playing in 5 bands. So, I mean, there's already a natural element of that, especially the jazz bands. You'll see a lot of sit-ins. There's a mystery show at the license number 1 on, I think that's Saturday night. So you might want to check that out. That's pretty cool. But I would definitely, and also we have Hippie Bluegrass Church at E-Town with Nick Forster, and he will have some special guests, and that will definitely be jammy. That will be a good one.
Very nice. And that's a unique venue also. Local folks like myself, a lot of us have been there, but they have their own kind of special way of sharing live music and recording that and, publishing that. And that's more of a sit down venue, right? So you have these different places with their own flavor of what a fan would experience if they're going to go there. So I would imagine for a lot of people, in addition to what we've talked about, they are going to be going to these places maybe for the first time. And they're going to get something unique, I think, from each one of them.
Yes. Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned that about E-Town as being sit down. They actually changed up some of the seating this year, so we can either do sit down, and some of the shows will also be standing room only. And I think we have 2MX2 booked there, which is a Latin hip hop band. So the folks at E-Town were so generous, one, with giving us a really great deal on having the whole weekend there, and Nick, stepping up to do Hippie Bluegrass Church. But they said to us, hey, book some stuff that we don't normally have. Let's get some different bands and different genres, and let's go for it. So that's going to be, I love E-Town, so go there. And you may be seated or you may not be seated.
That's right. Yeah. And, as you're talking, just to take this out a little bit, kind of zoom out, right now, without getting too political, there's just a lot happening in the world around us. I would think that planning this, and for the spaces that will be venues and the artists, having something like what you and your team have put together, not only to look forward to, but to think about and to plan for, is always important and valuable. But I think more than ever, what I hear and see from people is that real, genuine want to feel connected to good
Yes.
things, to positive things, to things that bring us closer. So I feel like at this point in time, this could not be a better time for what you're doing.
I totally agree. I mean, it gets back to the kind of corny notion of music being a universal language, of, one of our kind of guiding principles is we believe in the power of music to make the world a better place. That's why we have our sober open mics, and that's an example where you see some of these folks early in their recovery that haven't played music sober, right? Mm-hmm. And they come into the open mic and they don't know if they can do it sober. And but we have a very, very supportive crowd there, and it's pretty humbling. But it's like you said, so connected with the community, and that's what keeps me going for sure.
Oh yeah. Now, when we've had Caton on the show, he has talked about some other community-based workshops and events that you all have. Are there any others that you would want to talk a little bit about? I think there was something related to maybe mentoring. It sounded like you've done a lot of that.
Caton is very involved in what we call our Tempo program. It's a high school industry immersion program. And so we looked at what was out there in the community already. There's some, School of Rock is awesome. The Lesson Studio is awesome. Performance High is awesome. Like, there's a lot of good teaching facilities for youth that are for profit. So we said, let's not compete with those, but what do we have that's unique that would work for high school? And so it's industry immersion, meaning they're helping us produce shows. They're learning how to do sound for a show, how to market a show. We're setting them up with Caton and some other amazing players to have professional backing bands, so they know what it feels like to have like a killer band backing them. And one of the best moments of the year was one of the students, Marina Fatefield, who's now at Belmont, but she did her high school kind of going away party there. She got on stage and did an hour and a half of original music with her as the front person. She organized the band, more than one band. And I was just blown away. It's like, man, I wish I could write an hour and a half of music and perform it, And so that's the best part, frankly.
Yeah. Well, you're giving a space, and it's a safe space that people can trust to do things that are really difficult to do, especially at the age of some of those players. And it reminds me a little bit of what the Trombone Shorty Foundation does, which is an organization that I've supported and a lot of people have supported in different ways, where they want to make sure they're not only helping younger musicians and artists on the musical side, but also from an industry perspective, to give them help, because that knowledge, I think, is more and more important for artists to have. People tend to be these days a little bit more of their own manager. They kind of have to do a lot of things that are more business related too.
Yeah, I mean, being a local musician, but especially a musician that is trying to make a career out of it, man, that's a rough gig. Not only do you have to be a genius performer, but you have to be like a genius social media person, a genius business person. And that's why we have a lot of workshops on the business side, sync licensing, how to manage a band, how to organize a tour, that type of thing, taxes for musicians, something as boring as that, but
Super important.
That could kill your career if you don't watch it. Yeah.
Definitely. And your background, I would imagine, really lends itself to thinking more holistically as well about those things and the importance of them. I would love to, as we think about wrapping up today, thinking, as hard as it might be, beyond the next week and a half, because that of course is massive, but thinking to the end of this year into next year, are there other things that you all are dreaming up for either your regular programming or other kinds of events?
We're trying to figure out, we have a lot of open mics and open jams, and we're trying to kind of figure out a little bit different model on that. So I don't have that specifically solved yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. And the other thing I'm looking forward to is that with the festival, and we really are going to start almost, hopefully we'll have 2 days of rest, not just one. But for next year, is we found that one of the best parts of this festival was every second Tuesday we have we call it a community meeting, and it's for the artists and the volunteers and pretty much anybody else who wants to come. But these are kind of like these big gatherings, and they've turned into these kind of big parties almost. And we just found out that you don't have to have a specific purpose, that if you can just bring people together, that is really big for musicians, that they get to network and talk and have fun and compare notes and show off and compete and all that stuff. And so we're going to have more of that as well. And just check out our calendar. Do you mind if I plug it real quick?
Please do, yes. And then I want to make sure everybody knows where to get tickets. And yeah, all that fun stuff. Yes, please.
So for tickets, go to boulderrootsmusicfest.org. That is a mouthful, but boulderrootsmusicfest.org. And also for Roots Music Project, rootsmusicproject.org, and check out our event calendar. I think you're going to be, if you haven't come to our warehouse, it's a pretty special place. It's half punk rock, half DIY. A little scary when you first get there, but then you get inside and you're like, this is awesome, actually. So come, no matter what it is, come check out the show.
Yeah, awesome. And I want to thank you, just as someone who, is local to the area. I've gotten to know you and a whole bunch of your team in different ways over the last 6 to 8 months. And I have just been continuously blown away by the dedication, the enthusiasm, but also the skill level and the background that everyone has that they're bringing to this work, and the energy for it. And all of that combines to what is going to happen during those 3 days for the festival. So just as a fan, thank you so much to you and your team for what you're doing. And I want this to continue as long as possible. So we're here to support you. If you all ever have things going on that you would like to talk about, you all do incredible social media and marketing and all of that. It's amazing what you all put out. But we're also always here if you want to chat, and we will absolutely be sharing as much of the festival and what's happening there as possible.
Amanda, you're awesome. I mean, the scene needs this right here, where people can connect with musicians and the fans. So what you're doing is so needed to keep the scene alive. So thank you for all the support and kind words.
Awesome. Well, right back at you. Hang on for just a second, Dave. We're going to close things out. I want to just thank everybody who's watching. We'll make sure to share all the information about where to find tickets and just to get more info on everything that you all are doing. So I'm going to take us out of here. But again, thanks for joining, Dave, and looking forward to next weekend for sure.
Me too. We'll see you there.